welcome to do so as well at the end of the webinar. So what I've kind of done with this webinar is basically go back through email and kind of take it to where we're at now and to kind of what's going on with it at the moment, and just show you guys some examples. So I haven't gone really in depth into, how do we exactly make step by step on how to make an email or how to put together a campaign, because you may already know that, or you may be doing that, or it's kind of easier to research that in your own time. So what I wanted to do was kind of give an overview and also allow you to kind of see what is best practice, what works really well, some advice and tips, and then maybe if you have your own advice and tips or opinions at the end of it, you can give that as well. Something that I was thinking about, actually, I'll just go into the first slide, but emails is one of those things in digital marketing that really hasn't changed an awful lot. Like it has changed a little bit, but the actual structure of what it is, receiving an email and replying to an email is quite not dated, but it kind of is not in a way that's not similar to the likes of, let's say, Facebook or Instagram, which are very much kind of evolving and a bit more new age. You kind of get the sense that email is just something that has been around for so long, and even though there's been updates to it and the way we look at it, and even the way what we use to kind of the platforms that we use to host our emails, whether that's MailChimp or Keto and what we're using, that's changed a lot. But the actual physical thing of what it is, getting an email, is kind of one of the older forms, but so effective, of digital marketing. So I think it's really interesting how it's something that is still quite older, but still so effective. And I was thinking of that You've Got Mail movie, came to mind with Tom Hanks back like years ago, and that was so popular at the time, and that was all email, and that was the internet's just here, and You've Got Mail was this huge sensation that they were on dial-up. But it's the same thing 20 years later that we're using to now market to people, but and it's so effective, so it's interesting. So yeah, basically, I just wanted to give a bit of a background here of email and when did this begin, or how did this begin in terms of marketing. So the first ever generated marketing email was in 1978, and that alone generated 13 million sales from that. So, I mean, we're talking about a huge tool that we have here with email marketing, and something that maybe because of the fact that it is a little bit older, we can sometimes forget how effective it is. And it's something that I think you can get quite sloppy with quite easily. You can have maybe a stale newsletter, or kind of a formatted way of doing email that you've been doing for, 5 years, 2 years even. You should really be looking at it every 6 months and see what you're doing and how can you change it and what are the best practices around it. So everybody uses email. There are 3.8 billion email users worldwide. The average email subscriber receives 13 commercial emails a day. So you're in a lot of competition. So while everyone's looking at their email and this is all really popular, the actual competition in the inbox is quite fierce and bigger. It's only getting more so because everyone's kind of subscribing to things. And you might have noticed, if you're in email marketing yourself over the pandemic, you had better success, or you had maybe more openings, or you generated more people, more emailing lists, audience lists because of that. But it's important, particularly now, to kind of keep up the momentum and retain that. So the average return for email marketing is 38, this is in dollars, for every €1 or $1 spent. And 66% of customers have made a purchase as a direct result of email marketing message. So that's really interesting as well, just the kind of statistics on it, how it does work, and that it's more effective than social media, SEO, and affiliate marketing. And that might be very much due to the personalization, the fact that you've got your list and you can segment your list, you can target your list, you can say, okay, I know what people have landed in my have gone to my chart. You've probably all got those abandoned cart emails when you're just about to put something through when you're shopping and you think, no, it's too expensive, I'm not going to do it. So you leave it, and then you get an email from, Zara or from Target or whoever, and they're like, excuse me, can you come back and buy this purchase? So they're called trigger emails, that you have to perform an actual action to get those emails. But it's interesting. So sorry, I'm just admitting someone there. Where does email fit in? So traffic generation, effective for high value content you create on your website. So it's really important that your website and your email are like twins. So your design of your email and what you're designing is like an extension of your website, and really all your social media should be, but especially your email in terms of the graphic that you use or the images that you use. You really want to make sure that that's attached to your branding and your messaging, or just the colors of your email. And a lot of, particularly MailChimp, I'll reference a little bit because I know that's one that is free, and you can, well, to a certain extent it's free, and you can certainly do a lot of things on there for free. And they have a lot of really good new content, kind of design center built into it that you can use, and it kind of matches your brand and your coloring and your website to your email design. So it's a really good tool to use, but it's important to remember that the design of what you're sending people is connected to your original brand and the colors of your brand or your actual website, so that the two are very much aligned. Email marketing allows you to stay on top of mind while providing detail, lead nurturing, revenue generation. So targeting existing customers to upsell and cross-sell. As I was saying, the abandoned cart earlier, campaign for recovering lost sales. So yeah, it's really important to think, email is great for when you have people coming into your website and they're kind of like, so many people, look on websites and have a think about it and leave. So they're probably in that early stages of the marketing funnel where they're having a look and they're going, will I, won't I, is it worth my time? But from email, especially if you have those triggers set up that you can say, okay, this person had a look on the cart and then left, you're kind of capturing them back in, those leads that maybe would have been abandoned or would have been left. Also, it's really good idea, if you don't have this already, most people on their website only have a newsletter sign up maybe on one page, and then have the option to sign up for email at the bottom of that page. But it's a really good idea if you can, I know some people might do this via widgets, or they might have other ways to do it, but you don't even need to have a plugin like a widget or something. You can literally just include it somewhere nicely in all of your web pages. You should say, here's a link to our newsletter if you want to sign up for email. So, don't be afraid. I know sometimes you feel like it's a little bit pushy and you don't want to be like pushing your email out there, but really don't be afraid to have that, whether you have a widget and you can do that there, or on the web page itself, you can actually say, hey, this is our newsletter. We post content on here every week, every 2 weeks, whatever it is. We'd love for you. We think you'd be really interested in this, maybe even give an offer, but I'll get a bit more into that in a minute. But just, it's important to remember to not be kind of afraid to offer that throughout your website. Okay. And this is just carrying on then saying Gmail ads, which we're all very familiar with, in that kind of bracket section with that a lot of times, most people do avoid. I know myself, I go into my Gmail ads and I'm kind of like, oh, this is, why am I, you don't want to look at it, or it seems very cluttered, or, there's so much competition in there, as I was saying. So you're up against it basically in that sense. And I will go towards, or you're probably the same, I will click on the ones that are generally offering me something, or clever. So if the subject line is funny or clever or has a very clear offer on what it is, that will grab my attention. So because there's such competition there, it's important to remember you have to think about what the customer, or your particular customer, and your, kind of the people that are interested in your business or your website, what do they want and what would they like to see? And often you yourself will have a good idea, because you'll kind of know whether you click on it or whether you go there yourself. So this is what I was saying a little bit earlier, but emails that are triggered by an action perform 3 times better than nurture emails or drip campaigns. So drip campaigns are basically just automation. So automated emails that just get sent out after maybe you sign the newsletter, or, you're not actually doing anything to get this email. They don't perform as well, which is probably kind of easy to imagine, that action campaigns, which may be, filling in a form or answering a question or doing anything like that that triggers the email to be sent performs better because they're already engaging in your actual website. For 86% of professionals, emails is their preferred communication channel. So yeah, that makes sense. I mean, if you're at work, a lot of you probably already know you're using Gmail, you're using Outlook, so you're on your email all the time. And those subscriptions that are, I signed up to a couple myself, and the ones I go back to, maybe like BuzzFeed or something like that, where they're actually showing me really interesting taglines and headings, and I'm going, oh, okay, like that's kind of funny, or I could, it's interesting. Subject line emojis accounted for increased open rate of 56% of brands. So yeah, I have a slide at the bottom of this on emojis, and I think it's an interesting one because I was saying how email is kind of the oldest or older form of digital marketing, which is really interesting considering it's like that thing of, if it's not broke, don't fix it. Everyone's still using email, it still works, but it is actually an older form of digital marketing technically. But to make it more modern, to kind of bring it, I guess, into more so into the 21st century, the idea of emojis is interesting. I think, today we're all speaking with images. I definitely would talk to family, friends, colleagues with memes and with images sometimes, because it kind of conveys how you're feeling. So if you are that kind of a brand, like, it's important to think about, does this make sense for my brand? Does this make sense for what we're trying to say? Would emojis work in here, or is this a bit too playful? It depends on the content of the email that you're sending as well. You don't want to be sending a very kind of emoji filled, colorful email if it's a very serious or a different tone. So it's really important to match the emoji with the tone of what the email is. But I think it's interesting to see that has actually increased open rates by that amount for brands. So it's definitely something to experiment with. I just wanted to include this chart because I know some people, if you hadn't heard the term trigger email, or you were kind of like, I'd like to get into this or send these kind of emails, but where do I do it and how do I do it? So basically, this is a triggered email cheat sheet. And what it is, we have the abandoned cart, we have a welcome, an anniversary, a post-purchase, and a win back. So basically, this goes through what it is, which would be, what does this do? It encourages shoppers who've abandoned their cart to come back and finish the purchase. The post-purchase, which I think is a really nice, actually, that's a lovely one, because sometimes I get, everyone now has been online shopping and it's continuing. I think the stats are showing that this isn't something that is gone. I know we're kind of out and about a bit more, but people, the momentum of online shopping will definitely stay. And it is really nice when you've spent a bit of money and the company comes back and says, hey, you know what, because you purchased, we're offering you this 10% or 20% to give to a friend or to refer, or for you to have on your next purchase when you spend X amount. So that's a really nice way to kind of include that sense of loyalty. And, anytime I've gotten the post email after purchase, it kind of is a bit nicer because I think you've already done it. They've already got your money, but they're actually taking the time now to say, oh, I've already have your money, but we genuinely appreciate it. And I think that just little touch is just nicer sometimes than sometimes the abandoned cart is necessary. But I think post-purchase is just that little bit more personal, maybe, and you can make it a little bit more personal depending on of what they bought. So B2C, business to customer email, 78% of consumers have unsubscribed from lists because a brand was sending too many emails. So yeah, I mean, I think we've all probably experienced that when you're just like, I don't want to get 5 emails a day on, this new product that you're launching, or this new way of, doing my hair. I don't know, I get a lot of kind of, if you're, depending on what you're interested in, really, sometimes I get like, random ones from certain like hair stuff or like makeup, anything like that, where they're like, oh, we've noticed that you're interested in this product, so you might be into that. And that's all good and well when it makes sense, and to personalize it like that is lovely. But you need to have a set strategy for your email marketing, which includes and is very much focused on when you're sending them and how many you're sending them out to. Because if you overclog someone's email, with anything like that, they're not going to be happy. And I think we all know from going to our Gmail and seeing them all in there, we're kind of like, it's an overwhelming site. So it's really good just to make sure that the strategy is there on, how many you send and when you send them, and don't have it as something that is like, every day, 3 times a day we're going to do it. So just be wary of that. Over 90% of consumers check their emails daily. Yeah, which is crazy, but I suppose it makes sense. But considering how many would unsubscribe and how many actually check it, 78 unsubscribe, but 90% are on there. So that really shows you, like, people have to be so grabbed, and they really need that pull, whether that's from clever email or whether that's from a really good offer or personalization. But to be upkeeping and to kind of putting in the creative effort into your email makes such a huge difference, because the majority of people don't. You kind of think, oh, I'm up against so much competition, and should I even kind of bother, or we have done it this set way, let's leave it. But if you think about how many people are on there versus how many people are leaving, it is the ones that are putting in the effort that are making people click. So not everybody actually is doing things differently. Not everybody is putting in time to think about the image, to think about the tagline, to think about the offer. Most people aren't. So most people are using a lot of the same stuff again and again, hoping that, hoping for a different outcome sometimes. So if you take the time to really think about what your strategy is, does it match what you're trying to sell, you will see results, because people are always checking their emails. So it's really important to keep that in mind. And email subscribers are 3 times more likely to share social content than others. So yeah, people who generally are subscribing to your company or to your website or to your product, service, whatever it is, they're engaged. So they're more likely to be engaged in other ways, which might be on Instagram, which might be on social media or Facebook. So the engagement level is high if they're already subscribing. So it might even be nice if you have a set list of subscribers and you kind of have an idea that they're definitely active on social media like Facebook or Instagram. You could kind of post something on one of those sites connected to that and say, oh, like, I want to do something special here for some of my email subscribers. So if you click this link and follow the email that you can kind of, in that sense, match the two of them together. Because more than likely, if they're on your subscribe email list, they're also on your social media. So it's a nice idea to kind of marry the two that way. So I just wanted to do a rundown of what you should really check when you're emailing or when you're sending out emails. Sorry, now the top of this is gone for me. Okay, so it's important to remember who you're emailing. So who's on that list? Is there too many on that list? Should you segment it for this particular goal of your campaign? Maybe you have too many on there, and maybe you need to set a certain amount, for something else, or this needs to be related to a particular age group or a particular action that they did. And I know on MailChimp, and also probably on other email marketing dashboards or tools as well, you can actually now segment and tag people in a way that you can say, I only want to send this to people who signed up for the newsletter on this page, or who abandoned cart, or who, did different activities. So you can say, or are of a certain, from a certain location, or different things like that. If you do, I know sometimes, and there is an argument whether you only have the email and nothing else. So you might be kind of going, oh, I don't have the location, I don't have any of that information, I just have the email, which is fine too. You could still segment by activities in that sense. But it is nice if you do have the option on your form. There's kind of a debate on whether to include, to ask people for things like their demographic details or not, and whether that's a good idea. So we'll get a bit more into that later, but it is an option that you can segment that way as well. So outline the email or emails that will be included in the campaign, so that this is basically in your, before you send anything in your strategy. Spend time on the subject line. So that's really important. Like, you want to look at it and go, is that grabbing me? Does that catch me? Would I want to click on that? Write copy that's suited for them. So, you don't want to write a copy that in no way is matching up. Sorry, I think my internet, I just want to make sure that that's fine. Yeah, you don't want to write, oh, apologies now. I just want to go back here, present. Sorry, now this is just, okay. Yeah, yeah, it's really important that your copy is matching up to your actual subject line. So you want to keep that in mind. Use a comprehensive email builder. So that's the likes of Marketo or MailChimp, whatever you prefer. I mean, now you've got thousands of templates to choose from. And in MailChimp, it's literally, it's a matter of dragging and dropping. So it's practice. It's going in there and using it. I, even when I wasn't actually sending out emails myself, I was just doing this, like just practicing, dragging, making pretend emails, which is a really good kind of way to get used to it. Include personalization elements and excellent imagery. Yeah, image is king in email. If you think about yourself when you open an email, you want to look at the pictures. You don't really want to read it. Like most people don't want to go in and spend ages reading through like a long thing that maybe ends in a nice offer, but maybe they won't even get to see the nice offer because you've got it buried down there underneath all this text and they're going, no, thank you. So it's really important to kind of push the image, because even if your offer, you know, even if it's not anything very interesting, they will still be attracted to it or stay on that page because you've got a funny or clever image. Now, again, it's really important to marry that with what you're saying in your brand. There's no point in putting up, you know, a really funny, cute puppy just because you think it works if it doesn't match in with what you're actually selling or saying. So that's really important as well. Include calls to action. Yeah, people want to do something. So like, it's funny, you think it wouldn't work, but like the amount of people that click on something just because it says click here in green writing, people will do it. So if you're giving someone something to do in the email, that can be really nice, whether it's like, you know, you've got an offer, by clicking here, you can avail of it. Most people will. So it's really nice just to see the call to actions in there. They do work. Test your email and make sure they work on all devices. Yeah, really important to make sure it's mobile optimized. I should have included in that as well. But you need, people are on their mobiles for everything now. So people aren't, unless you're at work, and I would check my emails at work as well. But in the evening, probably when I'm looking at the more promotional side of things and email marketing, I am on my phone. So make sure those, like, you know, your beautiful taglines and your lovely images and your really nice call to actions, you know, they could be perfect and you have it all great on a PC or a laptop. And then someone tries to open it on their phone and the images doesn't load, you know, the kind of general sense of it is lost. So it's really important to make sure it's mobile safe and sound. So now just a little bit more, and I've kind of covered a little bit of this, but just wanted to kind of show you what's happening today. And kind of, as I was saying earlier, you know, we know email is kind of the older side of things, but it's very good because, and that's why we're still using it, is because it's you know, still working so well. So as I was saying, the competition for your inbox is still expanding and huge, which is why it's more important than ever to use best practices. So always practice kind of your strategy, improve it, tweak it, talk to people about it. Like, you know, even if you're a team of one and you haven't got people around you to kind of, you know, jump ideas off, no, you don't have to be an expert in any kind of digital marketing or email marketing to give an opinion. So, you know, it helps definitely, but if like the person is just a colleague who maybe works in finance or maybe works in HR, and you just say, would you open this email, or like, what do you think of this? It's really nice to get the second opinion. I know that's not always possible for everyone, and even if it's just a family or friend, but sometimes you can spend so long on something and so long on it that you kind of get this weird blurry vision and none of it makes sense anymore. So having that second opinion to go through your email or what you want to do is really important. AI, this is interesting as well. Artificial intelligence is becoming more and more popular, and it's going to be, I don't think it's at a point yet where it's completely taken over how we use email, but a lot of companies are looking into this, and maybe some of you have some examples or have looked into it yourselves or kind of integrated into your email. But it's an interesting thing to kind of see, is it something we can use? I think, you know, it's important to be wary with stuff like this when they come in. While it all might be, you know, very flashy and looks very good, if it doesn't make sense to your particular company, then there's no point in adapting it. Adapting it in small pieces, testing it and seeing if it works is much more clever and will have a much better result than kind of going, let's just throw loads of AI on our email and see what happens. You know, use parts of it and test it out. And there was a YouTube clip here, and I think there is subtitles in, because I don't think you guys can hear this.
Oh, banging. Millie out there, or is Sally out there? Must be Millie messing. A lot of banging going on.
Thanks. Sorry now, I think someone may have unmuted themselves there just during that. So just make sure that you are muted. I'm just going to go back here to where I was. So yeah, it's just interesting to see, sorry, how AI is kind of coming about and how it's going to, oh, sorry. This is the problem with Zooms and having these technical problems as you're going through. Now I want to go backwards to, oh, sorry, okay. Okay, so the last point then basically kind of sums up what I was also saying earlier, is that email isn't going anywhere. So while we kind of think, you know, email is older, yes, and is very established, is probably a better word to use for it, but the call to action, the actual, when it's done well, it works really well. So I think there's an idea sometimes of like, email's done, it's over, people are, you know, on their TikToks and they're getting the information this way, but it's just really not true, especially if you work in B2B, but in any kind of format, people are still always on their email. And as we said earlier, 90% of people look at their email every day. So it's something that is very much alive and well, and very important to stay on top of. I just wanted to show you examples of some really good, oh my God, sorry about that, some really good emails that have worked really well for people. So this is a charity, and you probably have experienced it yourself sometimes when you're giving money to charity, you don't know what happens it, right? You give some money to, you know, Concern or somebody, and then you never hear anything again. So this is a really good campaign that this non-for-profit did, where you sent money, then you were able to see on a timeline where the money went to and what stage your project was at. So this, for example, Sam and Jen on their wedding did a campaign from their honeymoon, and they donated $20, so a small amount, and it went to Rwanda. And here's their project timeline. So their progress report was able to say 1 to 3 months, we send money in, your money into the field. This is what happens at 3 to 6 months, at 6 to 9 months, and here's where you're at right now. Our partners finish the work and train the communities to manage their water point. So this is amazing, just to kind of get that feedback, especially with something like a nonprofit. It works really well. But even if you wanted to do this, you know, kind of run something similar, If people, well, obviously this is like a moneyed situation or monetary value, so it works best for this. But if people do buy from you or offer your service, keeping them kind of in the loop of what's going on through newsletter or with your service is a really good idea. And I just think this worked very well. So it's probably more applicable to NGOs or for projects. If you are somebody that is looking for a donation or for money, this kind of thing, it does work really well. And actually their website is beautiful as well, charitywater.org. If you want to have a look at it, it's just really nicely done out. And obviously a beautiful website is going to back up your beautiful email really well. So, I mean, I know you won't be in charge of all things, but the two of them together does work and makes a big difference. So this is another example of Brooks Running. So this is an e-commerce running, mostly kind of sports and athleisure wear. But at the time, an athlete, Desiree Linden, made history for winning the Boston 2008 marathon. And instead of and she was wearing Brooks Running. So what they decided to do was send out a thing congratulating her in their email. So it wasn't very heavily focused on e-commerce whatsoever. It was saying, over 3 decades have passed since an American woman last won Boston, but today that all changed. Congratulations to Brooks, elite athlete Desiree Linden, who finished first place. We are beyond proud. So this is really like, well done. But very cleverly, what they've done here is matched their brand, what she was wearing, and a kind of a feel good, positive, proud kind of email to this athlete. And then also much smaller, but I separated this into 2 pieces, but this was the first half and this is the second half. So kind of down below, and this is something that you could design quite easily on MailChimp as well if you wanted to. But then here you can see the call to action is see Desiree's go-to gear. So when you click on there, that's going to bring you straight into their commerce website, and they're going to be able to browse through their things. So the main thing here, what your eye is drawn to, well, I think I'm kind of drawn to the picture first, maybe most people are, and then you're drawn to this. So it's not an ad as such, it is, but it doesn't look like one. And that's ideal when you're looking for creating good email content. If you can match it to something like this, I mean, this is a particular case of a sports athlete star winning a race, and them kind of, basically leveraging the fact that she was wearing their gear and using that, which is totally great, and there's nothing wrong with doing that. So if you can kind of think outside the box, if you have examples of somebody, or whether it's maybe an influencer, which isn't quite as wholesome as a woman winning the Boston Marathon, but you can kind of think of different ideas of coming up with ideas to send. So I think that's just a really nice idea from Brooks Running. And then this is a good one for subject lines. And I know I spoke a little bit about subject lines in the beginning and how important they are, but BuzzFeed are like the master of this at times. So often what they do is they answer their actual initial subject line question in the preview text. So you're reading this, which is kind of nothing. It's just a statement. It's not a question, or, but you're kind of drawn to it because they probably had this signal to be sent at morning time. And, they would have, I imagine, scheduled it when people were actually waking up, and then answered the question in the actual, in the subject as well. So that's a really nice idea to kind of get people going, oh, what's this about? Like, it's nothing to do. They're not selling beds or bed linen or anything like that, but it's literally just an attention grabber. So it's an interesting way to look at it, to kind of answer your question with your subject line or from your subject line. And then I think this is the last one I just thought was really clever as well. This is from Uber. So as you can see, I was saying earlier, nobody wants to read loads of text. So they've literally grayed out all the writing that people don't want or won't read anyway. And when you skim it, you can just say, we know that you're scanning this email to save time. Sync your calendar with Uber to save more. So really clever. They're really, aware of what people are like and what people do, and they will just scan things and read them. And also the fact that they included this is to save time, which is something that this whole streamlined calendar syncing, the idea is to help people be better organized and all that kind of stuff. So it fits in really well with the idea of someone not having the time to read a full email marketing email. Another thing that Uber do, and you can kind of see it here in the background, but their emails match their actual content really nicely, their website. So their emails are very much an extension of their actual website content, which is lovely to kind of get that streamline. You know what brand you're talking about, the colors, the whole thing. So it's a really nice, very clean, very clear when you're writing an email, even, same with your website. I think sometimes, as I said a couple of times, your email is like an extension of your website. And if you've got that clean, really nice, clear, not cluttered, a good amount of white space, and you can extend that onto your email, then you're kind of onto a winner in that sense. So this is kind of, a lot of this I've probably mentioned already, but just to kind of familiarize your guys' self with it. I know we're probably kind of low on time at the moment, so I don't want to keep anybody for too long. But yeah, basically personalize your email without using your recipient's name. So that can be done segmenting, targeting in your audience list, and that can be done in the likes of MailChimp. Look at redesigning your newsletter or working with stronger lead magnets. So a lead magnet is basically like an offer. So it's like sending out an offer of 20% off or 10% off. It can be anything that literally it is kind of what it says in the word. It's like a magnet that pulls people in. So that can be generally is a good offer. But it's really important to not kind of just leave your newsletter, your kind of opening thing that gets people in to sign. You want to be kind of updating that, redesigning it, like keeping it fresh and new and playing around with it. There's nothing better than being a little bit more creative and kind of trying things out and seeing where you, how do you personalize without using a name? Yeah, it's a good question, Caroline. I think the idea is that if you don't have their name, some of you will because you'll include it on your form sign up. But if you don't, you can do that via segmenting or targeting in your audience list. So if you're on MailChimp, or if you're not using that platform, maybe you use Marketo or another one. If you go into segmenting or targeting, they'll give you options in there to actually target it down to specific triggers or specific things that they have maybe done on your website or other demographics that they have given you. If they haven't given you a name, you can actually personalize it and say, oh, I know you were looking at this or you were on here. So you have a kind of, your audience isn't just kind of going out to everybody on your mailing list, because you may have 100 people on your mailing list, but they're all very different people. So if you can kind of go into your audience, if you're on your platform, whether that might be MailChimp or Marketo, go into your audience dashboard in there and look at the tools in terms of segmenting and targeting tools on your audience list. And that'll kind of give you a really good idea and what can be done with your particular list. But also on your form, on your newsletter sign up or whatever form you're using, if you want to include, some people just have an email and that's totally fine. Some people say that's better. But if you want to experiment and try using name and maybe even location, generally where they're from, that could be interesting to have as well, to have that data also in your dashboard. So apparently, now this is debatable for your particular customer, but 11 a.m. on Tuesday is prime time to send your emails. The best content is free content, give something away. So as I was saying, promotions or something even like, you get a free stay, maybe competition on emails, this kind of thing can be really, really good and really attract people in. And at the end, then I'm just saying mobile, as I was speaking about a lot about that earlier as well, mobile is really king and really powerful, and that's where you're optimizing for. Okay, so just before we go, I want to have a thing about subscribers, because everybody's always saying I need more subscribers and I want more people to come on. So how do we make it happen? This is just a couple of pointers, and you can talk to people, research and have many other ideas on this. but I just want to run through a couple. Nowadays, people are really guarded with their email, right? It's more, people are a little bit more, I think people have just become a little bit more skeptical maybe. So it can actually be harder to get that email, like that precious, that precious email from someone. So if you want to include an offer and people with their email address, you must think about what you're offering them. So yeah, that's a good point. You know, not everything is going to be applicable to everybody. So you have to think about what they want. Okay, if they're already on your website and they're signing up, that means they are interested already in what you have to offer. So now you just have to think about what would be a good offer. So what makes sense for this person who's looking at my website? You can probably see already from the analytics on your website, you probably know the kind of age you're talking about. You might even know the you'll have more demographics from your analytics, or if you work with a data analyst or someone like that, you can have a conversation more about that and kind of get more detail that way. It's a really good idea to be familiar or friendly, or maybe you are also the data analyst and you can go into your analytics and see. But knowing your personas and knowing who your customers are, what do they want, making that offer will give people, you know, will say, okay, you get my email because you're giving me such a good offer here. The form filling, so the subscription filling on your websites or wherever it is, make it really easy. Don't make it complicated. Nobody wants to click through lots of buttons. You don't need people's how many kids people have and whether they were born in, like, you know, Dublin or Michigan or wherever. Nobody needs to know all that information. So keep it as simple as possible. Some people think it's a better idea to only ask for email. Other people say, no, you need name and maybe location. But definitely make sure it's very obvious on your website where to sign up, and it's very easy to do so. And test it out yourself. You know, go on there and kind of see, does it make sense to sign up? What's my newsletter like, or the page, and kind of go at it that way, because what you experience and how you're experiencing this as a consumer is the same way that the consumers are. So, you know, it's important to kind of remember that as well. Ask subscribers to forward your emails. Just make sure you are set up to keep the subscriber button active. So yeah, you can, when you're sending your emails to your already active subscribers, you can include in that and say, if you would like, or if you know people that would be interested in this or want to subscribe or would be interested in getting these offers, please send on to friends and family. So it's a little, maybe people think it's, you know, a little bit outdated to kind of say, oh, just send it to more people, or, you know, but it can work really well, and it's worth the shot to kind of try it out and see whether that's something that would be good for you or not. This is a really nice one actually that I came across, and I haven't tested this out myself, but I think it would be really cool, which is QR codes. So you've probably seen them here in Ireland around the time of the pandemic. We all had to use QR codes to order food. So we type in the QR code, or we take a picture, and then it would come up on our phones, the menu. So when you're out, if you did want to, you could literally have, maybe if you're in a shop, if you have an e-commerce, if you have an actual shop, and it's not just online, or maybe you just want to put it up around your area or in, you know, different places, but you can physically print out and have a QR code and include on there a way for people to scan that on their phones, which brings them straight into an offer, or which includes a subscription. So on the actual printed document, you can say, hey, click here for a free offer, or subscribe here, and you get X amount via or sign up link via the QR code. So it's really cool because people are actually doing this physically in the actual world on their phones, which we don't get to do a lot anymore. And then it's connected obviously to your subscription. But I think it could be very successful because people have to do something, and people really enjoy taking pictures and the physical act of getting the code, especially if you print it out and have kind of a very obvious or good copy on that as well. It probably would work best in a shop itself, or, you know, it can work in other ways, but in a shop, if you have it on the checkout desk when people are leaving, and you say, hey, if you want to sign up to get an offer, just take one of these as on your way out, or I'll include it in your bag. And then people get home and they click the code, and you've got an email address. So it's a really nice thing to think about. I said this earlier as well, make it really clear on your website where to sign up. Don't be afraid to put it on every page. So, you know, I think some people think, oh, I'm just going to hide this at the bottom and, you know, people may look or they may come along, but you know, you don't, if you, whether it's by widget or whether it's by just having it on the page, but do include it and say, hey, we have a really cool newsletter, we have a really cool email address, here it is. So do include it and don't be afraid to shout about it if it's good, because it's worth the kind of promotion. And I think this is just the last page. Yeah, I just wanted to show you guys some examples of emojis that might work well in subject lines. So I think this one was kind of nice because it's actually speaking to you in pictures. So you're going from this little new baby root to this whole green tree for just €4. So, or $4. So sometimes when you actually can see things physically or you're reading pictures, it's just kind of nice, and it's, you know, it's kind of fun and people enjoy looking at that. Again, if that makes sense for you and your particular company or business, then do include it, because for some people it won't. We have a lot to share with you tonight. This is kind of a very excited, a bit kind of scary, so I'm not sure about that particular emoji, but you know, that's kind of attention grabbing, I guess. Berries work really well, and strawberries and different thing like this. So obviously don't overrun your whole subject line with emojis where to the point where it's just like hieroglyphics or something, but do include it. It's nice to have. And yeah, just some final thoughts to make sure you integrate your email into all your channels. A banner, or you could also, as besides a widget, you could have a banner on your website. Social lead campaigns, so I was saying, leading your actual social with your email as well. And these are things that you can offer in your actual emails, which is series, downloads, white papers or ebooks, new releases and product updates, competition and promotion, free tools. I spoke a good bit about MailChimp, but also HubSpot. HubSpot actually is a great resource just to go in there and kind of get information if you're particularly interested in updating your email marketing, or you know, you're just really interested in email marketing, along with actually ourselves as well. DMI have a really good amount of information here, from podcast to video, article, toolkit on how to use email marketing and what makes it so good. So this, as you know, is going to be, or maybe you don't know, but these are all uploaded. So they're saved, converted and uploaded to a doc. And that doc sits, you should have access to that in your course page. And it will be uploaded there, and you'll have access to it basically in your course page. But you can also, I'll post this as well in the forum, this recording in the community forum. If you haven't been on there before, it's a good place just to kind of keep up to date with everything DMI, and I'll include it on there. And if you do have particular questions that you want to ask, oh sorry, I've just stopped sharing there, but yeah, if you do have particular questions that you want to ask, you can include them underneath the recording. And thank you so much for staying with me. I know we went a little bit over time, but I really do appreciate you being here and listening, and I hope that you enjoyed and that you gained something from it as well. And I hope to talk to you all soon, whether on the forum or through our DMI chat, or indeed on another webinar as well. Okay, so take care guys, mind yourselves and be safe as well. Bye.